So hey everybody, I'm going to just wait a bit until more people come in and then I'll start the lecture. How is everybody today? Excellent, sounds good, Ray. Good, yeah. Just been driving around. I've been able to drive around the last few days, so just been doing a lot of that today. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, we'll just wait a bit more until more people come in.
Desde acá se parece a Sheeran, viejito.
¿A quién?
Ed Sheeran,
¿Ed Sheeran?
pero viejito.
¿Se dice Sheeran? No sabía que decía Sheeran. No, yo tampoco sé cómo se dice. Todos los días le he dicho Sheeran. ¿Dónde va?
So we'll just wait a few more minutes. More people come in and then we'll start. Okay, we will start. Let's see chat. So the textbook, I didn't make it mandatory, so you don't need to buy it. Everything will be on Blackboard. You can get it if you want for your own use, but don't worry about purchasing it for the course. I'm not going to make it mandatory because I feel that it's too much money for people, so don't worry about it. Yeah, so everything's going to be on Blackboard for everybody. Yeah. So we'll start. Just going to PowerPoint. So today we're going to learn about. So also another note is we have our first test next week. So my plan is that I'll give you the second hour of the class to do it. So you'll be in class for the first hour, and then I'll give you an hour to do the test. It won't be a long test, but yeah, like you'll be able to do it in an hour. We'll do that, and yeah. So it'll be from chapters 1 to 4. So we're gonna get through all 4 chapters. Like we're gonna get through chapters 3 and 4 today, and then those will be on the tests. So today we're gonna learn about demand, supply, and market equilibrium. So we're gonna go through examples of markets, demand, how it changes, supply and how it changes, and how supply and demand interact. to determine market equilibrium. And then we're going to look at changes in supply and demand and how they affect equilibrium prices and quantities. And then we're going to see what government set prices are and how they can cause surpluses and shortages. And then we're going to talk about how supply and demand analysis can provide insights into actual economy situations. So markets are the interaction between buyers and sellers. So markets can be local, national, and international. And then prices discovered in the interactions of buyers and sellers. So the demand graph can be a curve or it can be a line. And then it's the amount the consumers are willing and able to pay for a product at the given price. And everything else is held constant except for quantity and price in this situation. So I'll show you the graph. It's gonna look like this. So this is demand graph here. It's downward sloping. And so the reason why is because, so it's downward sloping. And then, so quantity is on the x-axis and then price is on the y-axis. So as price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. The reason why is because people don't like paying for things that are more expensive. So yeah, that's how the demand curve works. And yeah, it's always downward sloping. Yeah. So this is an example of a demand curve. So this is the consumer's demand curve. And it goes through the individual's demand for corn. So in this case, if you were going to graph this, I'll go through it step by step. So this would be here. This would be here because price $5 is 10 quantity demanded. Price $4, there's 20 quantity demanded, and then price $3, there's 35. So it'd be around here. Then price $2 would be 55. Then price $1, there'd be 80. So it would look like this. It would be more of like a curve in this case, because it's not a line. It's really curving for the most part. So it's downward sloping demand. Yeah, it can be either a curve or it can be a line. So this is a curve here. So all I did was plot the points. Yeah, and then that's how they did it. So yeah, that's how they did it. It's just a curve. So law of demand, the negative or inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. So as price falls, the quantity demanded rises, and as price rises, the quantity demanded falls. So it's law of diminishing marginal utility. Then demand curve is the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded shown on a graph. And then quantity demanded on the horizontal axis and price on the vertical axis. And then downward slope reflects the law of demand. The demand curve is the marginal benefit curve. So how this works is they kind of, for quantity demanded, they add up all the individual ones. So Joe is 10 quantity demanded, Jen is 12 quantity demanded, Jay is 8 quantity demanded. So you add those up and you'll get 30. So that's how you get the demand curve. You add up all the individual quantity demanded. So then in this case, you're going to draw a graph. Just you're going to draw a graph. Let's say do it on here. Just going to change the So if anyone wants to follow along, if anyone wants to draw it while I'm drawing it, you can. So what I'll do is change the format to black. And what I'll do is I'll do a y-axis, an x-axis. So then quantity, price, so then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So price the y-axis, and then coin demanded on the x-axis, and then 60, 100, then 154, then 200. And then plot the points. So then here, and here, then here, and here, and here. So then, yeah, it would just look like this. So if anyone followed along, this is how it would look. Yeah. So that's how you do that. So yeah, you add up all the individual quantity demanded to get the total. And these are all the individual demand curves. So then you add them all up and you get the market demand curve. So this is like you add up all these to get the market. So demand is made up of consumer tastes and preferences, change in number of buyers, change in income, normal goods, inferior goods, and then change in prices of related goods, complements, substitutes, change in consumer expectations, future prices, and future income. So then the market demand for corn. So if you're gonna do the graph for that, if anyone wants to try it as well as I am, I'm gonna try it out here. So it's the exact same as what we did before. So I'll do it on here, format, here, be the y-axis, price, and the x-axis for hungry. So 2K, 4K, 7K, 7,000, 11,000, 6,000, K, and then 5, 4, 3, 2. So yeah, then if you, so yeah, here, 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 here. So yeah, you just connect dots. Okay. So that's how you do it. So if anyone's following along, that's exactly how you graph it. Yeah. So that's this is what the PowerPoint has. So it's the same thing. Smoother curve though, because mine my drawing is not smooth. This is good. It's good. And then I'll ask the class, what would cause the demand to shift right? Abby, do you want to try? What about Anna? Do you want to try? What about Bethany? Do you want to try? Brad? Is Brad there? Okay, so what would cause the demand curve to shift right? Okay, great. Comments. Production if the price decreased. So yeah, that's yeah, exactly. That's a great, those are good suggestions. Yeah, like if the price got cheaper. Demand, good job, you too. Demand curve will shift right if the price becomes cheaper. Yeah, price of corn becomes cheaper, so it's cheaper, so they can afford more, and also if a substitute of corn goes up in price, people will shift to corn because corn is less expensive compared to the substitute. So that happens a lot. Yeah, they ship to one other product if the substitute goes up in price. So that happens a lot. So that's something that could happen too. Also, if a complement of corn, let's say corn's used in salad, like let's say corn's used in a certain salad, goes down in price, people will buy more corn because they need both in a salad, say. So like, yeah, complements are like, so example of complements is ketchup and mustard. So like you need one and the other basically together. Yeah. So yeah, that's approximately here. So then determinants of demand curve shifts. So this is a good table. It's similar to what I was explaining with those texts. So determinants of demand curve shifts, change in buyer tastes. Examples: physical fitness rises in popularity, increasing the demand for jogging shoes and bicycles. Cell phone popularity rise, reducing demand for landline phones. So in this case, I'll ask you, what would be the substitute? What would be substitutes and what would be complements out of the physical fitness, jogging shoes, bicycles, and the phone popularity and landline phones? What would be complements and what would be substitutes? Brandon, you want to try? What about brands? Do you want to try? Okay, so we'll leave it up to anybody else. Who else? Does anyone want to? Which one would be a complement? Which one would be a substitute? Yeah, exactly, Erica. That's great. Yeah, so like that's great. Excellent. So yeah, if cell phone popularity rise, there's less demand for landline phones. That's great. Excellent. And then what would be the complements? That's great. Yeah, jogging shoes and bikes, because you need like you need both to be a triathlete, right? So like that's great. That's great. So yeah, compliments are like you need both. So ketchup and fries. So like, that's great. So compliments would be good job, Erica. So compliments are physical fitness and jogging shoes / bicycles, and then substitutes would be cell phone and landline phone. That's great. Good job. So yeah, then changes in the number of buyers. A decline in the birth rate reduces demand for children's toys. So that's so they're yeah. So yeah, children's toys in this situation are complements with children, basically. Like complements, children, and children's toys. Basically, because they go hand in hand, right? So it's a good one. Then change in income. Rise in income increases demand for normal goods such as restaurant meals, sports tickets, and tablet computers, while reducing demand for inferior goods such as cabbage, turnips, and inexpensive wine. The reason why is because when you have more money, you buy more luxurious food, like more expensive food, and you go to like the Raptors games, you go get lobster, you get iPads, and then when you have a lot more money, you're gonna buy less cabbage, turnips, and cheap wine, because like you don't want to have that as often because you have more money, like theoretically. So like based on theory, right? Yeah. And then reduction in airfares reduces demand for bus transportation, substitute goods. So yeah, airfare would be a substitute bus. So like airplanes are substitute buses, and then Blu-ray players and Blu-ray DVDs are complementary, because like you can't have like if you can't, like a Blu-ray disc is not usable without a Blu-ray player, right? And then inclement weather in South Africa creates an expectation of higher future coffee bean prices, thereby increasing today's demand for coffee beans. So they buy more today because it's still cheap compared to tomorrow. So they're gonna just buy a ton because they want to buy it at a cheap price today. So then changes in quantity demanded, change in demand, shift in the entire demand curve, change in quantity demanded to move along the. So supply is a schedule or curve. The amount producers are willing to enable to sell at a given price, and its individual supply and market supply. So law of supply. Other things equal, as the price rises, the quantity supplied rises, and the price falls, the quantity supplied falls. So price acts as an incentive to producers. At some point, cost will rise. So in this case, this is the supply for corn. So yeah, so if you're gonna graph it, you just like put everything in from the chart. So it would look. This is upward sloping. So as the price goes up, the quantity supplied goes up. So I'm going to ask you, why do you think the quantity supplied would go up when price goes up? Does anyone have an explanation? I'll throw it out to everybody who wants to answer. Yeah, exactly. You hit on the head. Yeah. So they want to, like, if they can charge a higher price, they're going to supply more because they can make more sales. So that's great. Good job. So I'm going to ask everybody another question. What would cause a decrease in supply? Does Ethan want to try this? Or Giovanna? Okay, I'll open it up to everybody. What would cause a decrease in supply? Yeah, that's close. So what would cause a decrease in supply is an increase in costs. So in that case, like costs of so like uh corn production may cost more due to higher wages, higher equipment costs, and higher seed costs. which would decrease supply. So that might happen. So that might be the likely case. So that's good job. Good job on that. Good job on that, Brant and Erica. Thank you. So yeah. And then what would cause an increase in supply? Everybody? So Sam, do you want to try? So it's likely due to an increase in supply might be caused by a lot of things. So like increase in production capacity. So like maybe they may have an increase in technological advancement. The tractors are able now to harvest a lot more corn. Also, labor may increase. They may be able to get more workers to produce. So yeah, like it's probably one of the two. Lower cost production, that's a good one too. Yeah, exactly. Got it. So yeah, lower cost production is another one. Lower cost production. That's great. Good job, Juan and Erica. Excellent job. So those are great ideas there. So yeah, determinants of supply factor prices, like we were talking about, like seeds and fertilizer, right? Technology, we talked about, like better technology, they can produce more. Taxes and subsidies. So like in that case, like if they're subsidized, they can produce more. If they're taxed, they can produce less. Prices of other goods, we were talking about like substitutes and complements, price expectations. Like if they believe the price is going to go up tomorrow, they're going to buy a lot more today because it's still cheap today. The number of sellers, like the amount of competition can change things. And then change in factor prices, a decrease in the price of microchips increases the supply of computers. An increase in the price of crude oil reduces the supply of gasoline. So that's all factor prices. So like if it's cheaper to make, like it's cheaper to buy microchips for computers because computers need microchips to be built. They can produce more computers. And then they need crude oil to create gasoline. So if crude oil goes up in price, they can't produce as much gasoline because it's more expensive. So they don't have enough money to produce as much gasoline when it costs more to make gasoline. And then the development of more effective wireless technology increases the supply of cell phones. So they're so yeah, there's better capacity. They're going to have increased capacity through better technology, so they can produce more supply. And then An increase in taxes on cigarettes can reduce the supply of cigarettes because it costs more to produce. So they don't have as much money to produce as much as they did before. So they have to reduce production. The decline in subsidies to state universities reduces the supply of higher education because they don't have enough money as before to produce education. So they have to cut back on teachers and on programs and courses and all that stuff. So there's less choice. And then change the price of other goods. So cucumbers and watermelons in this case are cucumbers and watermelons in this case are complements. So if there's an increase in the price of cucumbers, there's a decrease in the supply of watermelons. And then an expectation of substantial rise in future log prices decreases the supply of logs today. So they're going to produce more when there is a lot, like when they can make more money, they're going to supply more when the price goes up because they'll make more money then instead of they'll supply less now because they're making less money than they will in the future. And then an increase in the number of tattoo parlors increases supply of tattoos. So they can produce more tattoos. And then the formation of women's professional basketball leagues increases supply of women's professional basketball games. So yeah, there'll be more games if there's more leagues. The market equilibrium. Equilibrium occurs where the demand curve and supply curve intersect. Surplus and shortage. A rationing function of prices, efficient allocation, productive efficiency, and allocative efficiency. So equilibrium price and quantity. That's when it hits both graphs to each other. So like at $3. So in this case, yeah, so when the graphs intersect, it's equilibrium. So that's when the market clears basically. So yeah, so quantity supplied and quantity demanded equals 7,000 at equilibrium, and the price is $3. So that's when the market is at. That's where the market is at in the long term at equilibrium, because everything starts to balance out and demand equals supply. So they supply as much as is demanded. And that's where you should be, because there's no. So what happens is if you supply more than your demand than is demanded, it's surplus. So that's up here, and then this is shortage, where the demand is higher than the supply. So there's a lot of problems with that because the price is higher at the beginning of surplus than equilibrium, and the price is lower than equilibrium at shortage at the beginning. So like then it starts to go back up over time. So long term, it goes back to the middle. So like I'll put this down. So long term, and then this is more short term, and this is short term. Yeah. So like it starts to creep back up in long term. So rationing function of prices. So competitive force of demand make the supply equal demand long term. So efficient allocation, productive efficiency, that's when you produce goods in the least costly way. So that's most efficient, using the best technology and using the right mix of resources. Allocative efficiency is producing the right mix of goods and the combination of goods most highly valued by society. So if the supply of goods is constant and its demand increases, equilibrium price increases and the equilibrium quantity increases. And if supply of goods is constant and its demand decreases, equilibrium price decreases and the equilibrium quantity decreases. So when there's an increase in demand, the demand curve shifts. The price goes up and the quantity goes up. And the decrease in demands, the price goes down and the quantity goes down. Because the demand curve shifts left. And then changes in supply. If the demand for a good is constant and supply increases, equilibrium price falls, equilibrium quantity rises. Demand for a good is constant and supply decreases, equilibrium price rises, equilibrium quantity falls. So if supply curve shifts right, the price goes down, quantity goes up. If there's a decrease in supply, price goes up, quantity goes down. So these are complex cases. Like what if the supply and demand curves both move? So that does happen. You'll see a lot of it. So I'll go through all those cases. So I'm going to ask everybody in the class, if supply increases and demand decreases, what would happen to price and what would happen to quantity? So I'll show you. So price decrease and quantity rises. Okay. Yeah, price would decrease, straight. So quantity doesn't rise, but price decreases, correct. So the reason why is I'll graph this for you. So for one, we'll just label this one, so there's no confusion. So one is this one, and then let's put quantity, then we'll put price here. So then supply, demand. So label those supply and demand, and supply. So then if supply increases like this, what should you? So supply increases like this. So I'll put S prime. That's usually how they do it. They say S prime for the second one. And then if demand increases. So the new equilibrium. So I'll show you. So the old equilibrium, let's do like a rectangle for. And then the new one, we'll do a circle. So you see that, right? Oh wait, it made demand increase. Sorry, I'll start over. Not completely, but so what I'll do is so demand decreases in this case. So it'll be right here. Demand shifts left. We'll use 0. So supply increases and demand shifts left. And then the initial equilibrium, let's do rectangle, let's do that. So that's the start. And then this is the finish. So price does decrease. But we don't know what happens to quantity. Yeah, we just don't know. Like it could happen, anything could happen. Yeah. So that's how you do one. So what about two? So who wants to try two? Won't try to graph it. Winona, do you want to try doing two? Price for the increase, price for the increase. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Good job, Lauren. And Juan, yeah, price would increase, but the effect on quantity would be indeterminate, and I'll show you why. But yeah, good job, and price would increase. Yeah. So in this case, the supply and then supply would decrease. Then demand would increase. So yeah, then you see that the price increases, but we have no idea what happens to quantity. Quantity can go up and down, up or down. So yeah, that's great. So I accidentally let the other one show. So I'll show you how to, so if you can graph it on your own, I'll graph it too. So like if you have like a scrap piece of paper, so then both increase in this case. So in this case, we look like this, both shift right. So label. So this would be S, and then S2, then this would be D, this would be shift right, because they both increase. So then you'd be left with, start here and then you're here. So quantity does increase, but we have no idea what happens to price. Yeah. It's a good one. So what about 4? What do you think would happen 4? Anybody? Decrease price indeterminate. That's great. Great job. Excellent. So yeah, that was perfect. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I'll draw it quick. So they both decreases, they both shift left. Left is decrease, right is increase. So then this shifts left. So remember to label everything that you do. So Q and P. S2, S1, D1, D2. So yeah, the quantity would decrease, and then the price, we have no idea what happens to price. That's great. So the price ceiling is the maximum legal price a seller may charge for a product or service, e.g. rent control. So set below equilibrium price, rationing problem, black markets, credit card interest ceiling. So those are the things that can happen with a price ceiling. So I'll show you what it looks like. So it's, so in this case, supply, demand, and then so quantity price. So yeah, this is, so it would be set here. So the price is below equilibrium. It would cause a shortage. Shortage for price ceiling. So yeah, it's usually used for rent control because let's say rents is on average $1,000 a month, right? And then the city wants to set it at 500 maximum. This is what would happen because they may think that it's too expensive, which it is. So they want to make it cheaper for people, and this causes a shortage. So what usually happens in this case is that renters start creating a black market where they don't report what they're charging to the government, and then they might be charging like $1,500 a month, right? And without the government knowing, so black market would develop with rent control, and yeah, so that's usually what happens. So yeah, in this case, it would be a shortage. And then price floor is a minimum price fixed by the government. So they usually do that with milk to protect dairy producers in Canada. So they set a minimum price above what equilibrium is. So they usually do this with milk. So like, let's say they charge, they make the minimum price for milk $4 to be sold, and then but in a competitive market, the minimum, the price sold is $3 for milk. But the government sets it at $4 to make more money for dairy producers. It's kind of what they do. It is, which is a good thing for farmers because they work hard. But it's bad for consumers because we pay like dollar more. So that's, yeah, that's basically it. So there's a surplus in this case. So by increasing demand, student loans increase the price of higher education. The estimated total debt for Canada for a graduating post-secondary student is $27,000 in Nova Scotia, $40 when provincial and federal debt. And then, yeah, each $1 increase in loans increases tuition costs by 70%. So we went through all of this: supply and demand, market equilibrium, price floor, price ceiling, all that. So we're gonna do an activity right now. Right up, everybody. So which one does everyone want to do right now? Okay, cool. So yeah, log into this link and then we'll start the game. Great job, Brian. Great job, Mila. Great job, Juan. Great job, everybody. Excellent. Thanks for all the participation. That's great. So yeah, we're gonna start the next PowerPoint. So bring that up. So I posted the second extra credit practice thing. So yeah, I have that up. It's under assignments. So yeah, I'll just screen share for a second. See, it's under assignments, extra credit too. So yeah, like yeah, it's just they're all due at the end of the semester. So you don't have to do them all now, but you can add up to 10% of your final mark, like of extra credit. So depending on how you do, you can get up to 10% more on your mark based on the extra credit. It's due at the end of the semester, so I will combine all of your work on the extra credit and then give you up to 10% extra. It's not required, but you can get bonus marks up to 10% to raise up your overall grade. But you could still get 100% in the course, even if you don't do any of them. So it's up to you, but you still can't get beyond 100%. But like if you're at a 90%, you could potentially get 100% of the class if you're excellent in extra credit. So yeah. So it's like if you have a 90% in the course without the extra credit, and then you get all the 10% in the extra credit, you can get 100%. So yeah, it's a good it can bring your grade up a lot. Like if you have a 75% in the rest of the coursework and then you get all the marks on this one, you can get up to an 85%. So it's a big difference. You just have to put a lot of work into this. I can give you that. Of like if you do well, I can give you some, like you can see a lot of difference in your grade. Yeah. So we'll go through this. I'm just gonna, so the guy who put this together, Jason Dean, yeah, he is a great guy. He actually, I worked for him at Sheridan, and he was one of my professors at Laurier. He's a great guy. Super nice guy. So we're gonna go through how supply and demand analysis can provide insight in actual economic decisions. So supply shifts left for lettuce, weather destroys part of the crop. So demand doesn't change. Consumers still want as much lettuce as before. So they just have less capacity. So supply would shift left because there was a damage to lettuce because of weather. So this can happen through environmental events. Yeah, so that can happen in that case. So exchange rates are the price of one country's currency in terms of another country's currency, currency appreciation and currency depreciation. So yeah, you can, so demand goes up because of like currency depreciation. So if the currency goes down in value, products are cheaper. So this is what happens. So the dollar goes down in price in this case, therefore demand for goods from the US is higher because the US goods are cheaper due to the lower value of the currency. And then here, the supply shifts right for pink salmon, new technology that might be what happened. Might be better fishing boat technology. Also, new fishers could enter the industry, so there's more fish to be acquired. The demand shifts left for pink salmon, increases in consumers' income. People don't want to buy it as much, and there's a reduction in the price of substitutes. So they want the substitutes over salmon because the substitutes are cheaper. So this would be caused by, better technology. And then demand shifts left, cheaper substitute price. Yeah, so that might be the case. So gasoline, supply of gasoline decreases, refinery breakdowns, Mideast politics and warfare, rise in price of oil, demand for gasoline increases, consumers' incomes increases, low mileage SUV is popular. So yeah, those might be reasons. And then sushi, supply shifts right, increase in the number of sushi bars, demand shifts right, consumers' taste for sushi increases. Upward sloping versus vertical supply curves. Upward sloping supply curves, any shift in demand will cause both the equilibrium price quantity to adjust. Vertical supply curves, any shift in demand will cause only the equilibrium price to change, e.g. Preset prices. Preset prices can cause market imbalances. Olympics figures, skating finals, preset price results in short tickets. Olympics curling preliminaries, preset prices results in those surplus tickets. So yeah, we went through how supply and demand are shaped and surpluses and shortages. So we're going to show a video.
Right now. But if you hold all else equal, and the only thing that you're doing is you're changing price, then the law of supply says that if the price goes up, I'll just say P for price. If the price goes up, then the supply, or let me be careful, the quantity supplied goes up. And then you can imagine if the price goes down, the quantity supplied goes down. And you might already notice that I was careful to say quantity supplied. And it's just like we saw with demand. When we talk about demand going up or down, we're talking about the entire price-quantity relationship shifting. When we talk about a particular quantity demanded, we say quantity demanded. We don't just say demanded. This is the exact same thing for supply. When we're talking about a particular quantity, we'll be careful to say quantity. If we talk about supply increasing, we're talking about the entire relationship shifting, or either up or down. So let's just make sure that this makes intuitive sense for us, and I think it probably does. Let's think about ourselves as grape farmers, and I'll make a little supply schedule right over here. Supply, so grape supply schedule, which is really just a table showing the relationship between all else equal, the price and the quantity supplied. So let's label some scenarios over here, just like we did with the demand schedule. Scenarios. scenarios, and then let's put our price over here. It's going to be in price. This will be in price per pound, the per pound price of grapes, and then this is the quantity produced over the time period. And whenever we do any of these supply or demand schedules, we're talking over a particular time period. It could be per day, it could be per month, it could be per year, but that's the only way to make some sense of, okay, what is the quantity per day going to be produced if that's the price. If we didn't say per day, we don't know what we're really talking about. Quantity supplied. Quantity supplied. And so let's just say scenario A, if the price per pound of grapes is 50 cents, if it's 50 cents per pound, actually let me just do round numbers, but you get the idea. If the price per pound is $1, let's just say for us, we consider that to be a relatively low price. And so we'll only kind of do the easiest land, our most fertile land, where it's easy to produce grapes, and maybe the fertile and cheap land. So no one else wants to use that land for other things. It's only good for growing grapes. And so we will provide, so this is price per pound. So per pound. And in that situation, we can produce 1,000 pounds in this year. And I've never been a grape farmer, so I actually don't know if that's a reasonable amount or not, but I'll just go with it, 1,000 pounds. Now, let's take scenario B. Let's say the price goes up to $2. Well, now, not only would we produce what we were producing before, but we might now want to maybe buy some more land that might have had other uses, land that's maybe not as productive for grapes, but we would, because now we can get more for grapes. And so maybe now we're willing to produce 2,000 pounds. 2,000 pounds. And we could keep going. The same dynamics keep happening. So let's say the price, if the price were $3 per pound. Now we do want to produce more. Maybe we're even willing to work a little harder, or plant things closer to each other, or maybe I'll get even more land involved that I would have otherwise used for other crops. And so then I'm going to produce 2,500 pounds. And I'll do one more scenario. Let's say scenario D, the price goes to $4 a pound. Same dynamic. I will stop planting other crops, use them now for grapes because grape prices are so high, and so I will produce 2,750 pounds. And so we can draw a supply curve just like we had drawn demand curves. So and it's the same exact convention, which I'm not a fan of, putting price on the vertical axis, because as you see, we tend to talk about price as the independent variable. We don't always talk about it that way, and in most of math and science, you put the independent variable on the horizontal axis, but the convention in economics is to put it on the vertical axis. So price on the vertical axis, so then this is really price per pound, per pound, and then in the horizontal axis, quantity produced, or quantity produced, I'll say in the next year. We're assuming all of this is for the next year. So next year, and it's in thousands of pounds. So I'll put it in thousands of pounds. And so let's see, we go all the way from 1,000 to close to 3,000. So this is 1,000. That's 1 for 1,000. That's 2,000. And that is 3,000, and then the price goes all the way up to 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we can just plot these points. These are specific points on the supply curve. So at $1, we would supply 1,000 pounds. At $1, 1,000 pounds. That's scenario A. At $2, we would supply 2,000 pounds. $2, we'd supply 2,000 pounds. That's scenario B. At $3, we'd supply 2,500 pounds. $3. Oh, sorry. I want to make. See, notice I get my axes confused. This is price. This is what we're kind of, when we talk about it this way, that we're kind of viewing the thing that's changing. Although you don't always have to view it that way. So at $1, 1,000 pounds. $1, 1,000 pounds. $2, 2,000 pounds. $2, 2,000 pounds. $3, this isn't $3. This is $3. $3, 2,500 pounds. So right about there. That looks, that's about 2,500, but I want to do it in that blue color so we don't get confused. So $3, 2,500 pounds. That's about right. So this is scenario C, and then scenario D at $4. Actually, let me be a little bit clearer with that because we're getting kind of close. So this is 2,500 pounds, gets us right over here. This is scenario C, and then scenario D at $4, $27.50. So $27.50 is like right over there. So that is $4. That is scenario D. And if we connect them, they should all be on our supply curve. So they will all be, it will look something like that. And there's some minimum price. There's some minimum price we would need to supply some grapes at all. We wouldn't give them away for free, so maybe that's something that minimum price is like over here, that just to even get started producing grapes. So this right over here is what our supply curve would look like. Now remember, the only thing we're varying here is the price. So if the price were to change, all else equal, we would move along this curve here. Now in the next few videos, I'll talk about all of those other things we've been holding equal and what they would do at any given price point to this curve, or in general, what they would do to the curve.
So that's a good video on showing us how to do market equilibrium and supply and demand. So yeah, that was a good video. Khan Academy is probably the best place for tutorials. Yeah, it's I highly recommend it. I think that how he does it with the Blackboard, that's the most effective in my view. So I highly recommend that. I'm going to bring up the next. So we're going to go through market failures, externalities, and yeah, we're going to go through that right now. So the style of questions will be, it'll be multiple choice, and I'm going to post a review for it. I'm going to post a review for it after class. But yeah, it's going to be multiple choice, and it'll be 31 questions. So I'll give you this second hour class to do it. And yeah, it'll be next week. Yeah, almost choice. So we're going to go through market failures, consumer surplus, and how economic surplus, public goods, and negative externalities. So demand curve reflects all consumers' full willingness to pay. Supply curve reflects all costs of production. Then benefit surpluses are maximized for consumers and service producers. So consumer surplus is the difference between what a consumer is willing to pay for a good and what the consumer actually pays. So like the extra benefit they make after paying for the product. So if Bob's, like, these are the maximum price willing to pay for Bob and all these people with this word name starting with B, then the actual price. So what's the consumer surplus for each of these people? Can anybody answer? So you want to try, Lauren? Anybody else want to try? What would be the consumer surplus of each person? Like, what would you do to find the consumer surplus for each person? It's great. Yeah, it's exactly the difference. So Bob would be 13 minus 8. Yeah. What are you saying? Good job, Anna and Juan, Lauren, Christine. That's great. Excellent job, everybody. That's okay, Lauren. Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for participating. Yeah, it's the difference between the maximum price willing to pay and the actual price. So yeah, like in this case, it is this triangle right here. So let's say it's the bags, the quantity of bags is 20 for right here. Let's say it's 20, right? And then let's say let's say for instance, the 15 is right here, and the equilibrium price is 8. So what you have to do is you have to find the area of this triangle. So can somebody try to find the area of this triangle? So it goes from 8 to 15 and then 0 to 20 will be the area of the triangle. Because that's consumer surplus. So what you'd have to do is you do 15 minus 8. So this height, 15 minus 8, times the length, the base, which is 20 minus 0. And then you times it by half to do triangle. So what would that be if you put that all together? That'd be like 7. 15 minus 8 is 7, and then times 20 times half. Sorry. So then 7 times 20 is 140 times half is 70. That's great. So in this case, consumer surplus is 70. Great job. So it's the triangle. Equals triangle area. Equals base times height divided by 2. And then producer surplus is the difference between the actual price the producer receives and the minimum price they will accept. Extra benefit from receiving a higher price. So what would be the producer surplus in this case? How would you get it? That's great job, one. Excellent. 5. That's great. Yeah, actual minus minimum. So yeah. So you do the 8 minus 3. And then yeah. So then yeah, 8 minus 4, 8 minus 5, 8 minus 6, 8 minus 7, 8 minus 6. So that's how you get it. So it's kind of like consumer surplus. Let's make up an example. So let's say this is 20 again, right here. Right? And let's say this is 8, right? So how would you find the triangle area? This is 20. And this is 8. What would be the triangle area? So you do 8 minus 0 times 20 minus 0 times half. So what would that be? So 8 times 20 times half. 8 times 20 is 160 times half. It's 80. Yeah. Good job, Christine, Bruno, Wyona, and yeah, great job. So yeah, produces surplus 80. So basically consumer surplus is the top triangle. And then the producer surplus is the bottom triangle. And then triangle equals base times height. And I use brackets, so there's no issue with bed mass. So based on that, so consumer surplus, producer surplus. Then efficiency losses, deadweight losses. That's when, let's say you're producing at Q2 instead of Q1, your quantity is lower than you should be. If you're at Q2, you're producing lower than you should at Q1. Q1 is where you should be producing. So then this triangle results because of you produce too low. So it's called an efficiency loss. So I'll make an example. So let's say the price at D is 20 and the price at E is 15, let's say, right? And then let's say the quantity at equilibrium is 20 and Q2 is 18. So how would you find the area of the triangle here? How would you find the deadweight loss area? So you do 20 minus 15 times 20 minus 18 times half. So what would that be? So 5 times 2 times half, 10 times half, that's 5. Great job, 5. So deadweight loss is 5. That's great, good job. Good job, everybody. Thanks for all the participation, that's great. It's exactly what you do to get deadweight loss. And then this also, if you overproduce, there's an efficiency loss. So if you go beyond, so let's say you produce at Q3, so you produce more than Q1, so you produce at Q3, so more quantity, you can get an efficiency loss. So let's say it's kind of the same as the as before. So let's say this is 50. Let's say this is 22. And then let's say this is like 17, let's say. F price is 22, G price is 17. And let's say they're producing at 22 bags and 22 bags instead of 20. So how would you get the area of the deadweight loss with that? What you would do is 22 minus, okay. Yeah, exact same thing. That's great, yeah, exactly. So 22 minus 17 times 22 minus 20 times half. So what would that be? Great job, excellent. Good job, everybody. So 5 is deadweight loss. So it's the same calculation doing overproduction as underproduction for deadweight loss. Yeah, that's great. So then public goods. So private goods are produced in the market by firms and they're offered for sale. and the characteristics are they're rival and they're excludable. So like Walmart goods would be private goods. And then public goods are provided by the government, offered for free. Characteristics, non-rivalry, non-excludably, free rider problem. So an example of that would be national defense. So you don't have like it's available to everybody even if you don't pay taxes. And however, the people who don't pay taxes are not paying for it, so they're free riders. They're the people that don't pay anything for it. So that's the problem. So free rider problem is like when somebody doesn't, contribute to the national defense funding. So non-taxpayers. So yeah, the optimal amount of public good is when demand equals supply. So market demand equals market supply. So the net benefit is when you do total benefit minus total cost. So as in the chart, it's total benefit minus total cost. But it's most efficient when marginal benefit equals marginal cost. So you want marginal cost and marginal benefit to be equal. To be more efficient. And then quasi-public goods can be provided through the market system. So like the government provides them because it's positive externalities. So education, streets, and libraries are quasi-public goods. They're provided because education is good for society. Like it costs the government a lot of money and the government doesn't make a profit on it, but they provide it because there's less crime. That's positive externality to society. And also people are working more if they're educated. So it's a positive externality to society. We have a better society based on it, even though they're losing money funding it. But it's a good thing because there's less crime, right? And more people at work, right? More people that can, have skills to build things, sort of thing. And then streets, yeah, like they fund roads because like it costs a lot of money, but they're important for the economy to run. So like there's a lot of positive externalities to roads because it's a great commuter vehicle. And then government taxes individuals and businesses and then uses that to spend on public goods. So positive externalities. So the reason why the Toronto subway and the GO trains are not private goods, that they're not provided by private companies, is because if they were, the companies would be making a loss on those things and they wouldn't be making a profit. So the government has to produce it because it's good for the public good. It loses money, but it's good to people need it to, people need it to get to work and it's better for society if we have it, but they're going to lose money on it. And the government is the only one that can produce it because any private company would lose money on it, but the government doesn't care if they lose money, which is kind of a good thing because we can have these things without worrying about profit. And then negative externalities, too much to produce. So that happens a lot with like companies that pollute the environment, and then there's deadweight loss. So positive externalities, there's under allocation by private companies. So you need a public company you need the government to jump in to pay for production to be at equilibrium. And then negative externalities, you need the government to tax it to reduce it. So in this case, tax as a solution for negative externalities, and then positive externalities, subsidy as a solution. Yeah. So yeah, the government taxes for negative externalities, and then the government subsidizes positive externalities. So negative externalities, overproduction. So they can sue, they can tax, they can have controls, and they can have private bargaining. And positive externalities, they can subsidize. And then marginal benefit equals marginal cost, and that's where the market should produce. So that's when the market produces the right amount for everybody, where net benefit is maximized. So when marginal benefit equals marginal cost, so MB equals MC, that's when net benefit is maximized. And there is no daily loss. Okay. That's where we want to be. The governments have a role in correcting externalities. Officials must correctly identify the existence and cause, and it has to be done in government. So cap and trade can be done to tax negative externality. Carbon tax can be done to tax negative externalities, make it efficient. So we went through market failures, debit loss. Consumer and producer surplus, free riding, externalities. So yeah, information is important because it can underallocate or overallocate resources. It's important to have product warranties, and credit product warranties, and adequate, like everyone needs access to information, and this will reduce the amount of market failures. So yeah, asymmetric information causes market failures because people may make mistakes based on that. So it's important that information is provided to each side. The problem is if each side doesn't have access to information, there might be insider trading where people are given an unfair advantage. So I'm going to bring up another activity. So we'll try another one. We'll try guitar defense. Oh, you want to try fish? Okay, I'll do that. So we'll try fish actually. So host. shoes. Great job, Brandon, Kath, and Erica. Excellent job, everyone else. Thanks for all the participation today. So I'm going to post the review right now. So yeah, so the review will be up for test. Just gonna put it in documents. So it'll be under course documents. And then yeah, so you don't have to do all the review. It's only just like you can do as much as you can, but don't worry about doing it all at all. You don't need to know it all. Just do as much as you can. I just gave you as many questions as you possibly can look at, and just so you're ready. And does anyone else have any questions for today? No, they're not graded. They're it's all for practice for the it's all practice for the evaluations that are coming up. That's, and also like I find that learning by doing through doing, questions and everything, that's the best way to learn. I don't want to talk at students because I know that that's not how I learn and that's not how everybody learns. Like my theory is most people learn through learn through my theory is most people learn through doing. So I posted the review, and then yeah, it's for next class, term test 1. So does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, you'll have an hour. I'll give you an hour, and then if anyone else needs more time, that's fine. So I'll do a lecture for an hour, and then we'll do the tests. Yeah, but yeah, I'll give, if anyone needs more time, they can have it. Like no problem. Yeah. 31. So I put together 31 questions. Okay. So anyone else have any other questions? So I'm gonna do it through, I'm still, so I'll have to review that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll review that. I'll check if it is. I'll have to, because I'm new to the Blackboard system, I'll check. And then I'll get that information. Yeah, so after the 1 hour lecture. So I gotta close it, but email me if you have any questions or text me. I'll give you my contacts and then my Niagara College email and then my personal. So yeah, like reach me at any of those places. But I gotta go. But yeah, just email me any questions. Yeah, I'll get back to you quick. Have a nice evening, everybody.